Are you anything like me and struggle to get a project to completion? Have you ever started something that you were initially really excited about, thinking that this is something that I want to do, but somehow along the way, you get discouraged and you can't really finish what you started? If you're struggling to identify where you need to begin in any area of your life, start with building unwavering love and trust in yourself. When you are who you say you are and you do what you say you are going to do, you'll accomplish far more than your imagination dare take you. This begins with love and self-love, that is. The reason why I claim this with full confidence is because I have walked all those steps. I went from complete self-doubt to the extent that I wanted to end it all multiple times throughout my life, to having complete confidence in who I am and what it is that I am able to accomplish, because I have proven it to myself time and time again. Self-love can begin to look like fake it till you make it. I say that because to me, telling myself that I love myself and that I believe in myself were words uttered through tears and denial when I first started. I had to trick my mind into believing through daily affirmations multiple times per day. It was a messy process, but I got there, and so can you. Another major component is being self-aware. Do you even know who you are? A gauge to this question can be to ask yourself, when was the last time I judged someone for doing something a certain way just to meet myself in the door later on where I got confronted with a similar experience just to recognize why someone made that initial choice to begin with? Let me break it down a little bit though. I listened to On Purpose with Jay Shetty, the podcast, where he had Khloe Kardashian as a guest. Phenomenal episodes as she validates a lot of my beliefs, and I feel like she humanizes in many ways. She explained how the overwhelming judgment of what others believe she should have done when her baby daddy cheated a second time, "You should have known better," was a repetitive response. Have you ever thought about someone and later found yourself in the exact same situation? Self-awareness is recognizing that we are only as informed as our experiences have taught us, meaning that you don't know what you will do in a situation before you are in the situation. It is incredibly easy to judge a situation with no emotions involved, but once your own emotions are at stake, we might just take a completely different approach. Her current response to that whole situation is beautiful to me, and I'd love to share that with you. She said, "With life come great wisdom and experiences. Not that it's right, but you have to let go when you really feel like you're ready, because otherwise you might hold on to the what ifs of that person." She also mentions with so much grace how happy she is if her story helped other people feel less alone. And I can underscore 3 times that that person is me. I definitely felt validated. And it might be you too. Loving yourself and trusting yourself is knowing that you will get there eventually, but on your own time, not everyone else's time, or whatever it is other people's opinion are about what you should and shouldn't do. Loving yourself can also look like what Khloe is saying here. Her pain was worth it if it helps someone else, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I want to humanize the rocky process of life, the ups and the downs that we all experience, and share those experiences so that we'll all feel somewhat more validated. If I can be honest about my shadow sides to help myself first and foremost, but it helps you get to know yourself better as well, then my dreams are coming true, and God's purpose for my life is abundantly clear. Self-awareness is admitting that you aren't who you'd like to be. Here are some uncomfortable truths or inconvenient truths that I have had to acknowledge about myself in my life. I judged my cheated and cheated myself later in life. This is where the mantra, "I am loyal," came from. Recognizing I wasn't loyal, but want to be, was a crucial step. That's self-awareness. I was incredibly self-absorbed and didn't pay too much attention to people around me. This is where the mantra, "I am humble," came from, because I certainly wasn't. Recognizing I wasn't humble, but wanted to be, was the next step to getting closer to becoming what I desired. Not to mention how I needed to allocate time and energy into forgiving myself for my mistakes and shortcomings. No one is perfect, so stop believing that you have to be. But when you do fail in your own point of view, begin with forgiving yourself and get to acceptance as fast as possible. You truly get to know yourself when you dare to be honest with yourself about who you are. Are you manipulative? I certainly have been. When I look back at my first long-term relationship when I was 14 to 18, I have felt incredibly bad for both him and his family, many times. But it's a complete waste of time because I was a kid and I didn't even know what I was doing until I learned later in life what manipulation is. Are you a liar? Your mantra can be, I am honest, and make it your mission to make it true. Honesty can be painful, but lying is worse. If you're honest at a default, you'll never lose. Your truth can hurt many people, sure, yet you are not responsible for how they handle your truth. But once you lie, you are fully responsible for their fake interpretation of who you truly are. How often do you find yourself confronted with a situation that you judge someone else with? This is where I believe in God. The universe is clever. Once you claim something about yourself or a situation, you'll be presented with said situation to prove that claim. And boy, that can be a humbling experience sometimes. This is why leading with love and truth is so important. Be honest with yourself about who you are and make it your mission to get as close as you can to who you want to be. And also acknowledge that whoever you judged, especially if you judged them to your face, it is also an incredibly good trait in a person to be able to go up to them and tell them, I am sorry I judged you, I was wrong. That is a trait of a person that you can respect and a person that you love. The cliche of not knowing what it's like to walk in other people's shoes is so true. Before you judge, ask yourself what got them in that situation and how that impacted their decision. We are all a result of what we've been exposed to. I feel compelled to share this with you because the irony is that I met myself in the door immediately after I had written this episode a week ago. I travel for work, so I am spending a lot of time on planes every week, and that is typically when I get inspired to write a lot of the episodes. And when I wrote this episode about taking accountability and not being judgmental and being self-aware, I just found myself giving someone unsolicited advice about an hour later. And their response, justfully so, was not aligned at all with what my intention initially was. But however, not did they ask for my opinion, nor did they want me to give them advice, meaning that my unsolicited advice was absolutely uncalled for. Once this occurred to me, it became crucial that I owned up and apologized, not because I didn't mean what I said, but because my approach was completely incorrect. I wasn't going to accomplish what I wanted to do without inviting into a conversation beforehand, which would have been a way more productive way to communicate with someone. Like I said earlier, it's not so much about being perfect, but it is recognizing your shortcomings in those moments when it happened, being self-aware to recognize it, and truthful enough to admit it, not only to yourself, but the person in question. It is honorable to be able to see something from the other person's point of view. Not everyone had your devoted parents' impact. Not everyone had your healthy friend group. Not everyone had your healthcare. Not everyone went to your school. And not everyone has your level of education and exposure. So before you judge, ask yourself, what got them here? Here is the ripple effect of loving yourself. You stop judging, and you don't compare yourself to others. Actually, allow me to rephrase that. I believe we all see something and we make up our minds about what we think about it. But I think the true superpower is to acknowledge that just because you believe something doesn't mean it's the only right thing. Your norm isn't everybody else's norm. So surely we do judge people. But the true accountability comes from reframing your mindset when the initial thought is negative about someone else. Training your mind into having positive thoughts about someone, even if it's strange to you. And when you do find yourself in a situation where you're comparing yourself to another person, remind yourself who you are. It is a mental process to continue to talk to yourself in a fruitful manner, something that is graceful towards yourself and to others, to lead with more compassion, because you know who you are and you know that you are good. You handle situations on your own time because other people's opinion of how you should and should not act is none of your business. Remember that. If they judge you, let them. Let them. And when you judge someone else, get your mind on track immediately. We're not perfect individuals, but we can train our mind to have positive thoughts towards ourselves and towards others. When you love and trust yourself, you know whatever choice you make is the right one for you. You've also likely proven to yourself time and time again that you always get to where you need to be, but do so on your own time. The cheating example, if you have a child with someone and they cheated on you and you're not ready to give up on the relationship, all power to you. You're brave to believe in love and the desire to build a family for your child. Is it a risk? It certainly is, but it's still coming from an honorable place and recognizing that we all make mistakes and we don't know what led them to make those decisions to begin with. It can be way deeper, and as an empathetic person, you might hold space for them to figure that out. If it ends up happening again, don't blame yourself for believing, but get to acceptance as fast as possible. I want to encourage you to think about it as becoming the role model that your child needs to make healthy decisions when they grow up and experience love themselves. Recognize that your choices affect your child, and the way that you act in love rubs off on your child, whether you'd like to admit that or not. Be honest with yourself about the role you play in other people's lives as well, especially when it is your children or those you share your life with. If you are a manipulative liar and bad things happen to you, ask yourself, what role do you play in it? Can you be that self-aware? How did you get there, and how are you responsible? What action step can you make today to walk away from situations and people that are not building your character? Remember what I said episodes ago. It is important to surround yourself with people with good intentions for you and the person that you are becoming, because we are all a result of the people that we surround ourselves with too. We get impacted by what people say and do. You know how people just kind of start to sound like their partner sometimes when they fall in love or spend enough time with them? This is true for everyone, I think, especially growing up. When we are surrounded by our parents, we don't know as children whether or not what they're doing is right or wrong. We don't have a grasp of what right or wrong is. All we have is their exposure, and we see whether it's a female version or a male version that you relate to. You see their character and you adapt that behavior because that's how you believe that that role should act. And that doesn't necessarily have to be fruitful, but you don't necessarily realize this until you're way older. But it is important to be self-aware. It is important to be introspective, because once you are, and once you do go inward, that's when you recognize what kind of person that you want to be. Because what currently is your situation might not be working for you. And becoming introspective and tracing back the step of your life can be so empowering, because it helps you put into perspective the difference between what you knew growing up and what you know now with comparison. Because growing up, we might also notice that other people's parents are acting differently, for good or for bad. It doesn't necessarily have to be you who are the person with the toxic parents. It could also be your friend. But by observing this, you learn more and you see what kind of character you want to build. Saying I love you in a mirror is awkward and uncomfortable, but it is an underrated superpower to do in fact love yourself. I saw this quote by Cody Sanchez. It's an underrated superpower. Just dumb enough to believe in yourself, but smart enough to execute. And I thought that one was pretty great. Because if you think about it, the more you love yourself, the doubt just starts to wither away because you know who you are and you know what you're able to accomplish. And by looking ahead and seeing people around you who have walked the steps that you would like to walk, then you also know that it's possible, don't you? You've seen it happen before. Why should it happen to them and not you? The only thing that is staying between you and those goals and the things that you want to accomplish is your level of execution. So do love yourself and be smart enough to execute, because that's where all of your accomplishments lay, in execution, in actually doing the work. And that starts with loving yourself, because then you have so much more love to give as well. That is probably the most beautiful ripple effect of loving yourself. So stay curious and get to know yourself better. If you want to come share your version of how your attachment style manifested itself in your love life, please email me on magsmindset@gmail.com. I can't wait to hear from you.